there's different groups of people in the room. Some of you might just be getting started and you have no idea what I'm doing. Others might have been, okay, everything was going along and life hit. Maybe some of you are single moms. Maybe all of a sudden somebody passed away. There's all sorts of different things that could have happened. So there's that group of people. There may be some of you that are going along and it's going pretty good. But maybe you have I always say a bunch of kids, maybe that isn't good. 2, 3, 4 children, and it's still hard. Because all of a sudden they're in junior high school, we think it's going to get easier, it doesn't get easier, it keeps getting more and more expensive, right? And then there may be some folks here that are either looking to retire or are retired. And we're going to, how is our money going to keep working for us? How can we still be okay throughout retirement? So we decided that no matter where you are in life, we wanted to give you some great information and some tips that you can apply to your daily life. So today you're going to hear from experts in 4 different areas of financial services. And each one is going to start answering the questions that we really thought were pretty relevant. In fact, we thought they were so relevant, you all got a piece of paper that looks like that. So it's questions like, how can I be the boss of my money? Everything's costing more. How do I survive? I really want to buy a home. Is that even possible? Or life is hit. We were talking about that. How do I get back on the path? And the last one, how can I keep up with inflation? So we thought we would write those down so you can literally take them home and look at them and sort of plan a little bit. Hopefully take some tips from everybody for those plans. So with that being said, let's start with Jennifer Brown. Hey Jennifer, would you help us learn how we can start taking control of our money?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jill. Really appreciate it. Let me grab this mic here. So I'm nervous, but it's not about the presentation. It's about making sure I can do the PowerPoint and the microphone at the same time. I'm not sure if I can do it. So it's kind of like you tap your head and rub your tummy at the same time. So my name is Jennifer Brown. I'm a financial advisor. I've been a financial advisor for over 20 years, and I'm a licensed chartered retirement planning counselor, and I'm a fiduciary. Well, what is a fiduciary? Fiduciary means that I have to have full responsibility of your money. There's certain criteria that is set in place that we're not here monkeying around with people's money, and we have responsibilities. And the way we look at it is do what's right, how you would handle your money for yourself, for your mother, for your family, and be respectful of everybody's situation. And everybody does have a different story. And from that, you know, learning the story, understanding the story, really helps me as a fiduciary understand your relationship with money, because it's all different. Some people are panicked every time they spend $1. Some people spend $1 freely and then panic that they spent that $1. And then other people, you know, maybe just squirrel away money and don't enjoy life because of it. So we have a whole bunch of different reasons why everybody has a different relationship with money. It could be your mother wouldn't let you have those jeans when you were a kid that everybody else was wearing, and that meant that you wanted to spend that you're an adult. The stories are all unique but wonderful. My story is that I have a wife and 2 sons. One's 26 years old and one's 20 months old. What does that mean for me? I'm not going to be retiring anytime soon. So having a baby at 49 definitely changes the path for me, as we all do have a different path, and it does weave through life for us. And when we talk about finances, we talk about it as a living, breathing plan that needs to be changed as time changes. It's fluid. I live in Northbridge, but I do work in Valencia, and I do have a 7-year-old mini Labradoodle who talks more than anybody else in the house. So, first and foremost, we want to talk about budgeting. That's like, such a word that nobody wants to hear. It means taking time out of your day, a long time researching everything that you have, all of your bills, and it's kind of depressing, and it feels like somebody's telling you to curb your spending. Well, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Because we have 78% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck or are in debt beyond their paycheck to paycheck. So if you look at that, that's astonishing. And so people here, if we're all in this room going, okay, it's not just me. I'm not the only person who's living paycheck to paycheck. Or, oh good, I'm maybe doing a little bit better than that. And that's fantastic, but nobody's alone here, and that's important to know. So what I'm going to challenge you guys to do is actually, today is April 1st, so it is Fool's Day, but this is not a Fool's Task. Every dollar you spend this month, I want you to put in a notepad or in your phone if that's easier for you. And I want you to see what your spending is. Is it $4 coffee at Starbucks? How much money is in gas? What your rent or mortgage payment is? Your insurance payments? I want you to gather all of that. Every spend you have, I don't care if it's 25 cents for a gumball and a machine, if we even have machines for gumballs anymore, I don't know. But, putting 25 cents in a meter, whatever it is, I want you to write it down, and I want you to see where your spend is. And then I want you to look at your food, your shelter, your transportation, and your utilities. And those are the main things that you should be spending your money on. And then see where you can tighten up that budget if you need to start moving into a place where you want to save money for college, you want to save money for a house, you want to go on vacation, you want to, your car needs to get a repair. Whatever it is, we want you to see where those spends are and see how you can lessen those quick spends and maybe plan a little bit better, so that way you're saving money. I've done it, it's not fun, just so you know. And then we'll want to talk about credit card debt. Easy way to spend obviously is on your credit cards because we don't see it now, and then all of a sudden, we have all these different credit cards with bills on them, and then how do you pay them off? Well, a lot of people want to pay off that higher amount first because it's earning interest, and that's what you want to do. Or you can go, well, let me pay off the highest interest one first. Well, a lot of times when you go into that circle of it, what happens is you never end up finishing one credit card off. So what we talk about is, what's the dollar amount for all credit cards that you can pay? And so let's say, for example, it's $200 a month that you can spend on your credit card bills. What you want to do is you want to look at the minimums of your other credit cards, the ones that are not the lowest, and see what those are. So let's say, for example, credit card B is $5,000 and your minimum payment is $40 a month. And credit card C at $7,000 balance is $60 a month. Well, you want to pay those minimums, and then you want to take whatever extra money you have on top of the minimum for your $2,000 credit card, so I'm going to say $100. And you're going to pay that $100 off until that $2,000 credit card is paid off. Then you take that $100 and you add that to credit card B, and you pay $140 a month until that credit card is paid off. And then you take that $140 and you roll it into the $60 monthly payment, and that's $200 now a month that you can pay off your credit cards. And that's the way to do it. Now that doesn't mean life isn't happening during this whole process. That doesn't mean you're not going to be adding more debt to your credit cards. It does happen, but you want to account for it, and you should have that in your budget that you're creating. Here's a tip. We're trying to build up our credit score, our FICO score. I don't know if you have ever looked to see what your score is, but on creditkarma.com, it's free. You can look up your credit score, and you can also see what your credit cards are that you have, as well as the dates of which one is your oldest credit card. And don't ever shut that credit card down. You can downgrade it. You can call them up if there's an annual fee and say, hey, I'd like to downgrade this card where there's no annual fee, but never close it because that is going to be a very large ding on your credit score. So if you're trying to purchase a new car, let's say, or you want to get another credit card, well, you certainly don't want to do that. Or if you're just building your credit score back up, you don't want to shut your oldest credit card, even if it's zero balance. And every once in a while, on your cards that you do want to keep, even if it's zero balance, throw something cheap on it, a $25 gift card on it, and then pay it off. And that's because you don't want them to shut your oldest credit card down either. Okay? Again, downgrade your card, do not close them. Now, I want you to pay yourself first. That's hard. We're taught to pay your bills. That's the responsible thing to do, and it is. But we have to start looking at ourselves with more respect, that we should pay ourselves first and foremost, that we're more important than that car payment or that mortgage payment or that latte or this or that or whatever you're going to get. That doesn't mean you shouldn't pay those, but you need to first pay yourself within that budget. And then what you have left over, you then pay your bills with it. You make sure that you have enough to pay your bills, because again, if you are using credit cards, you want to make sure that you can pay them off after you clean up the debt if you have it. And so when I say pay yourself first, you know, a lot of people say 20% of your salary, and you go, oh my God, I can't do that. I can't even, you know, I'm paying paycheck to paycheck. How can I do that? So let's just look at some basic numbers. If you took $25 a week and you put it into a basic investment account, a mutual fund, something that you can open up on E-Trade, Scottrade, Schwab, anywhere, and you put it into a fund, and that on average, it'll go up and down, but on average grows 6% over time. 20 years, that $25 a week that you put in is gonna earn you $50,220. Well, that's money that you didn't have before, right? For $25 a week. If you can't do $25 a week, cut it to $12, $12.50, and you'll $12.50, it'll be $25,000 that you have. 30 years, look how it jumps up. 40 years, look how it jumps up. So when we look at it and say, okay, what am I going to do as retirement comes, as maybe I have to pay for college for my kids, how can I do it? Well, this is a way that can potentially help you. And it's a number that doesn't look as scary as if I said to you, put 20% of your salary away, or 30% of your salary away, or you need to put $500 a month away. You know, and you can, and if you can do $50 a week, great, or 100, or whatever it is that you could do, maybe after cleaning up debt, or whatever the situation is, or lowering that budget, and saying this is important and this is what we should do, that will grow for you. And we need that, because when it comes to Social Security, unless you have one of those jobs that you're going to receive a pension, which very few of us have anymore, it's up to us, because Social Security is not going to cover your full retirement. It's not even going to cover half of your retirement. So we really need to start thinking about ourselves and paying ourselves first, because, you know, A, you want to make sure that you're able to stabilize yourself in a home. You want to make sure that you're not a burden on your children. And it also will make you feel better. You'll be able to sleep better at night. Now, we all have different types of investments that we need. You're going to want to look at it as buckets. I've opened up several bank accounts, let's say at Bank of America, and one of them I'll call my emergency savings. And maybe I'll put, you know, $25 a month in there if I need to. And, or if I need to save for a new car, or long-term savings, or education savings. So, long-term savings would be that investment account that I was talking about. Education savings would be the same thing, depending on the age of your child. But it's not one big bucket that you put it in, because then you spend that bucket, right? We all have it in one place, and then you go, oh, I need this. But if you put a little bit to the side that you say, I'm not going to touch, it's a lot harder to touch it emotionally when you do it that way. Now, ways to save. You want to use a credit card. If you are using a credit card, let's add something to it. Let's make sure that you can get points on those credit cards or cash back. And a lot of times you can get into a credit card that has incentives. So if you spend a certain amount of money, let's say $3,000 in 3 months, you'll get 60,000 points, or you'll get $900. Well, that's free money that you didn't have before. And then of course there's the marketplace. These are just a couple of ideas. I'm sure you know of others. But marketplace, I've again purchased things like slides and things like that for my kids for $65 instead of $450. And it doesn't go to recycling. And then you can look up things like Rakuten, which if you buy it through their site, you get cash back, which they'll give you a check or they'll give you money through PayPal. But again, it's a way to give you free money for the spend that you're already doing. So those are the things that you want to look at, because we want to be smart with our money. We want to take advantage of free things that are out there, because why should people, other people who you say, oh, maybe have more money than me, why are they getting these things? They're doing some of these tricks of the trade that are happening, like getting points on a credit card. Maybe that's that vacation. Maybe you can get a free hotel for 1 or 2 nights and go to the beach with your kids and have a nice time that you wouldn't have been able to have, but because you used the credit card that you paid on and you're responsible with, you got these extra bonuses that made your life better instead of just always you work. So what I'm going to tell you now is this is kind of a basis. We want to continue a plan, not just a budget, but a plan of how to move your money along. Anybody, my card's in there. If anybody wants to talk to me, whether it's sitting down with me or Zoom, I'm here to help you at no cost. So, you know that we have resources here for you. And I'm going to pass it along to Jessica.
So first of all, thanks, Jennifer. Okay, quick reminder for everyone. She gave so many good tips, but I'm sure that there's a lot of questions too. Write those questions on one of those pieces of paper, because we're going to make sure that we address them afterwards on the second part. So, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is that insurance is the basis of any good financial game plan. So I'm wondering, Jessica, can you help us understand insurances and maybe just give us some tips about them?
I would love to, everybody. My name is Jessica Swissberger. First of all, thank you so much, Jennifer. I could listen to her talk all day. She's given me so much advice, and she's wonderful, so intelligent, and has so much knowledge. I'm sure we all see that. So thank you guys also for being here. I'm just excited. I feel privileged to be up on this panel with so many professional and well-spoken women, and we're honored to be here. So a little bit about myself. I worked as an agent for Farmers Insurance for the past 3 years, and it was a wonderful experience. I learned so much about the industry, quoting, policies, what's covered, what's not, maybe some common misconceptions. And now I work for Peterson International Underwriters, so kind of on the back end of it. So I kind of have a broad sort of spectrum now of understanding of the industry. And so it's my passion. I have so many family members who are in the industry as well. And it really just was one of those things that kind of clicked. I didn't really know kind of what I was doing for years. And then once I found this industry and I saw what it could really do for people and how it can truly help, it's one of those industries that I think there's a reason why it's been around for so long. And so it can truly help you from financial burden. It's there for a reason. It's there to protect you and your assets and things that you've worked hard for. And I want to definitely dive into, I guess we'll start with the basic policies and kind of why they're important. If you're currently a tenant, so let's say you rent, right? Not all complexes or places require a renter's insurance policy. And although you don't necessarily own the structure or the complex itself, you still have things that you've brought in there. So one of those being personal property. I like to describe this. Let's say you took your apartment, turned it upside down, anything that kind of falls out, anything you've brought in, furnished the home, TVs, beds, clothes, chairs, to any of that. That's what you'll want to cover. And there are so many perils, so many risks out there. let's say there's a fire, right? You've worked hard for those belongings. And so with a renter's policy, you can chat with your agent, kind of see what the amount is that you feel would best protect you and your belongings. And if something did happen, if there was a claim, that's exactly what's going to help you kind of replace those things. Another thing is liability. Just because, again, you don't necessarily own the complex. If somebody does come over, let's say you're having family or friends over, or, a party, birthday, whatever it may be, someone trips and falls, accidents do happen. This policy is going to protect you in the event that they maybe come after you and say, hey, I have medical bills and I fell on your property in your apartment. That's what it's there for. So renter's insurance is a really important thing, even if you don't, even if you're just in an apartment and not in a home yet. And so it's definitely one of those important coverages. And homeowner's insurance, so that one is huge, right? Because if you do own a home, then there's even more chance that you're liable. And so I could just kind of name a couple that were the most important. So dwelling, that's going to actually protect the home itself. There are 16 perils, right? So there's, just to name a couple, we don't need to get into all of them, but fire, wind, theft, vandalism, all of these things do happen. And so, if there is a fire, the home burns to the ground, that dwelling amount is what's going to replace your home and what's going to help pay for all of that. And then again, the personal property we have, loss of use is a huge one. This coverage specifically, let's say there again was that fire, this coverage is going to pay for you to live elsewhere while the home is unfit to live in. So that's not coming out of your pocket. You're not having to pay for the hotel or wherever you may need to be in the meantime. That coverage is there for that reason. And then of course the liability as well. If someone puts their dog on your property, then those expenses aren't coming out of your pocket as well. We all know how medical bills can kind of rack up, especially nowadays. Hospital visits, all of that has gone up in price as well. And then of course we all have heard of auto insurance. There's so many different auto commercials out there. But it's there for a reason. Accidents do happen, and the minimum may not be enough to cover you. It most likely isn't. And if you, let's say you hit a Tesla, right? The state minimum is $5,000 for property damage. I'm not saying that we have to have the highest 100, 200, 250, 500, but I would recommend even just a notch or two up from the minimum, because we don't plan what cars we're going to get into an accident with, right? And if it's not a fender bender, just a little scratch, it's most likely going to cost a lot more than $5,000 after they get an estimate, take it to the body shop. These things can add up. And the last thing we want after getting in an accident and the trauma of that is to get a letter from an attorney stating that they're coming after you because your policy didn't have enough coverage on it. And so there are ways to save on that, which we can get into and we will in a little bit, but just kind of wanted to get into the gravity of insurance. It can feel like this intangible thing that, well, it's just there, right? Why do I need it? I don't use it that much, but you don't need it until you need it. And when you do, that's when it's most important to make sure you not only have coverage, but you have the right coverage and enough coverage. And that's something you can discuss with your agent, because we don't know what we don't know, right? And they're the ones that are going to be able to talk to you about, hey, this is going to do this for you. Do you need it? Do you not need it? Can you leave it out? Do you feel like this is something that you need or you don't need? And if we can save here, all of that. So it's important to discuss it with an agent, which is why I'm a huge advocate for going through an agent and not just like a 100 number, because oftentimes you'll be able to speak with someone that has put in the time to learn about the industry, learn about the coverages, help you understand maybe that learning curve, because there's so much to insurance that it can feel overwhelming just to kind of go in and be like, I need to insure my home. Like, what does that mean, right? There are so many factors to that. So definitely, I'm always available, and there's plenty of people and professionals out there that you can always contact if you have questions. So some standard coverages that make a huge difference that I kind of wanted to touch on, and just some scenarios that have happened, because I think stories are powerful and they're real, they happen. And so we all know about the wildfires in California. They're crazy and they're scary and they spread so quickly, and there's little to no control over it. And, even if you think you're in, you know, a safer area, you just never know, right? And that's what insurance is for. It's those moments where you just didn't know it was gonna happen, and it happened, and it's there for you. And so, fire, again, is one of those perils that will cover your home, and so it's a huge one. I mean, I know people that have homes and don't have insurance, and I just think we've learned about how to get money, right, or how to plan and budget for it. And then once you have it, you're gonna spend it on something, and why not protect that something that you're spending it on? And so water damage is another one. There's a couple misconceptions about water damage. It is covered. It does have to be sudden and spontaneous. So let's say you come home and a pipe bursts in your kitchen and all the flooring is damaged. That's a lot of money. That is covered with your insurance. So they'll replace your flooring for you. That, I've seen a claim where it was $30,000 and her policy covered it because she had insurance. She insured her home. And, however, if it comes from, the water source does have to be inside the home. If it comes from outside in, that's considered flood. And so the rains that have been happening, all of that, if let's say that rainwater kind of came in and damaged, you would need a flood policy for that. You can always get a quote if you live in an area where flood isn't a huge hazard. It's not going to typically be too much to have that policy, just to kind of add that on for extra protection. But mainly it is there for you if it is in your home and there's a sudden burst or something like that. It should be insured and definitely should make a claim and kind of figure out the logistics of that. We talked a little bit about fire in your house, but if your belongings are stolen, most people don't realize that when you have this personal property coverage, that's not just for what's in your home, that's worldwide. So let's say you go on vacation, you bring your stuff with you, that's covered anywhere you go. So it's a really, really important one that can really help out as well. And then, of course, auto accidents, if something's deemed a total loss, if you injure someone, if you damage a vehicle, these are all things that are going to help make sure that you're not financially burdened. And then having to kind of start over, feel like you're even more behind because now you're having to pay off this claim. And sometimes a judge can even put a lien against you and garnish your wages if be. So it's not just that if you don't have assets, you're fine and nothing will happen. It's gonna need to get paid somehow, and they're gonna ask, what can you sell? What can you do if you don't have enough coverage? So it can affect all of us in a major way. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about insurance, because again, we don't all need to have these billion-dollar policies, but just enough to where we have peace of mind that as we're living our day-to-day lives, we know that, let's say an accident does happen, we'll be okay. We're not gonna be, you know, in debt over it, or it's not gonna ruin our financial lives. And now the fun part, possible ways to save. I know we all love this. So I know we all hear every commercial says bundle your home and auto, but I can't even tell you how big of a discount that is. So if you haven't done that already, or at least gotten a quote to see what it could save you. And it's also sometimes nice to kind of have everything with one place, right? So you're not having to call this agent for that one for this policy. And so I believe with Farmers, it was a very substantial discount. So I obviously can't talk on every carrier. I don't know what they all offer, but I do know it's a really huge discount. Reporting burglary or fire alarms, not everybody knows. A lot of carriers are opening this up to be a discount. So if you have a ring or something that would alert like a local station or a fire department or police department, if something does happen, anything that kind of reduces the hazard is typically a discount. So that was a big one. Annual mileage is huge. There were a lot of people when I was working at the agency that would call in and as they should, kind of take a look at their policy upon renewal and said, hey, wait, my annual mileage is a little bit off, but actually it's not gone up at all. And you'd be surprised how much annual mileage does affect the rating that you're getting for your premium. So make sure you're double checking what you're being rated on as far as the mileage that your policy says that you drive. Good student, good driver. So if you have a student in your household that's driving, a lot of times if they have, for Farmers, I know it was a 3.0 or higher, that is a discount on your auto policy. Good driver, claim free, double check that you're getting that discount if you haven't had a claim for about 3 or 5 years. They fall off after 3 with Farmers at least. And then claim free is, I just wanted to touch on this because I think sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, something happened, I should make a claim right away. That's not always the case. It sometimes might be smarter to not make a claim and get an estimate first. Depends on your deductible, because let's say that your deductible is $1,000 and something happened, right? And you get an estimate and it was a $900 fix. You made a claim already, you didn't ask, and then you still are responsible for your deductible, right? So if it's under that 1,000 or even like 100 over, now your insurance policy either didn't even pay for anything, you still paid 1,000, or it only paid 100 over or so, and now you have a claim on your policy and you're being rated for that on renewal. So I would definitely chat with your agent before making a claim, if you know it's gonna be a huge amount, and of course, but if you're not sure, it's always best to kind of double check before you do that. Because once you file the claim, I don't believe, at least with our agency, we weren't able to then take it off. So once you do it, it's kind of already made. Any updates or replacements that you do on your home is always a discount. If you replace the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, because that is reducing hazard again, and so that's gonna help out with the premium. Deductible, a rule of thumb with your deductible is if you increase it, typically the premium is gonna decrease. Because that's something that you're more responsible for, and so your annual premium is gonna go down when you're increasing. So and if you don't even know your deductible, maybe it's a good idea to look into it and say, do I need it as low as 500, 250? Most of the time when you make a claim, they're gonna be more than that anyway. So it might make sense to increase it to 1,000, 1,500, 2,500, and see how that can kind of help with premium a little bit. And then of course, review your policy with your agent. It's just always good to know what your coverages are, know what's not on there, know what, you have and what you don't have, just so you feel prepared, just in case. And any questions you might have as well. And so just to kind of recap, we just want to start with the most beneficial policies. There's so many different endorsements and things that you can add and take off, but as long as you have the basics and you know kind of what you're covered for, I think that's a great place to start. And again, your agent will kind of know after speaking with you what you need, what you don't need, like that. Insurance at the end of the day really is meant to protect you and your family and your assets. It's not meant to be this burden or this scary thing that you're like, oh gosh, my insurance rate. Yes, they are, it can feel like a lot, but I promise you that the reason it is there is to help you in the event that these accidents happen, that these things go on in the world that we don't always have control over. And that's why it's there to protect you. So find that happy medium, talk to somebody about it. If you're not sure, ask me questions, ask anybody, but kind of your perspective on it. I'm hoping that today we all can kind of look at insurance as make it work for you, not against. And there are plenty of ways to save. It's just usually ask away. So thanks, Jessica.
Those are notes, pretty cool. You have one minute. So, a lot of people want to own a home. Anyone here who doesn't have a home wants one at some point in time to get. And even if you aren't a home right now and you're just wanting to get a place to live, have an apartment or lease on something, it's always interesting to find out how do we do that. So, Shirley, can you help us with it on this?
I sure can. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you all for taking the time on a Saturday morning to be here. So congratulations for wanting to better your life and your financial health. That's a huge step in going forward and making changes for you and your family and creating a legacy. Again, my name is Shirley Andriopoulos. I'm a realtor with Parkinson Realty. I've been in real estate for, I always say a different number, but I started in 1989. I started right out of college. I was blessed enough to start working in a loan department as a front desk, the friendly smile, and progressively just got better opportunities presented to me. And buying a home and selling a home was not something, I love business, but as a child from an immigrant, I'm an immigrant child. I came here at the age of 6. I was blessed enough to come to America, have an opportunity, and at the age of 11, I remember distinctively, my parents decided to buy a home. That was in 1981. Leave myself a little bit here. And walking through home and seeing other people's space and the rooms and the decorations, and that experience in itself, you guys, just put me in awe. Like, someone's gonna let us walk through their home and we could possibly buy it. Like, that was, as an 11-year-old coming from Lebanon, a war-torn country, was mind-blowing. And I just love that idea. And just the fact that my mom and dad were so proud to be able to provide for their family. It really, when I had an opportunity and I started in the loan department, I just knew that was the tip of the iceberg for me to start my career in real estate. So I started in real estate in 1889. I just, like I said, I loved it so much. And it was a job at first, but I loved it. But it became a passion because it allowed me to serve families, individuals, and be part of their dream and goal. And that's what I want to tell everybody. If you don't own a home currently and you have the hopes and the dream to own a home, just keep that dream alive. But it is a choice, it's a lifestyle, and it's a mindset change. So, moving forward, all I can say is exactly what Jennifer, I'm going to piggyback off of her, is, budget. Budget is so important in life. If you could start with budgeting, and that is, $50 a month, $25 a month, whatever you could do to get that money to grow, and it will allow you to, money doesn't, many people say money doesn't provide happiness. I disagree. It provides you options to be happier. So you don't want to make money only motive in your life, but you do want to be smart and be financially healthy about it. I have, what I'd love to talk about is the 10 commandments of buying a home. It's a process, like I said, it's a journey. It's not something that, if you have zero down payment today, please don't be discouraged, because there are so many amazing programs that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Candace will discuss that allow you as a first-time buyer through the county and the city, and so many other programs that will allow you to be a homeowner. And if you're currently a tenant, that's okay, because what that's going to do as a tenant is it's going to allow you to have a focus on what you want to do in the future. And it's something that you can take 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. Most of my clients, my first-time buyers, we're in discussion for, I would say, 9 months to a year before we really can look and start looking, because we created that healthy budget for them, that knowledge of what they need to do. So if you want to look at this slide or your notes, it says the 10 commandments of buying a home. This is so important. Number 1 is thou shalt not change jobs, become self-employed, or quit your job within a year or 2 years of wanting to buy a home. So if you know that in 3 years you're looking to buy a home, or next year you're planning to start your job, a new career in your side job and make it a full-time job and become self-employed, you have to know that you have to be prepared in moving forward. If you're going to make any changes, you become self-employed, minimum 2 years in that situation before you can even apply to get a home loan to buy a home. And that doesn't, it's not really just for, this is actually mainly for single people, but also married couples as well. I don't know how that is with each of you here, but just something to consider. This is for everybody, not just singles. It's also for couples as well. Number 2 is thou shalt not buy a car, a truck, or a van, or finance any large vehicle. Again, if you're considering buying a home within a year, or if you want to start on that path, it's very, very wise to be budget conscious and don't finance anything that could limit your available credits or your income to purchase a home. Number 3 is thou shalt not use credit cards excessively, as Jennifer said, and I put 28% or let current accounts fall behind. 28%, it's really 30%, but I like to be conservative. That's a number that you have to look at on your credit card. If your balance, or if your available credit on your credit card is $5,000, but you owe $3,500, your goal for your FICO score to stay steady and climb consistently, your goal needs to be for that balance to be at 28%. So hypothetically, $2,500. So we're not saying you don't have to have credit card debt to buy a home. You don't, you can have debt, but your debt and your income have to go hand in hand for affordability. Number 4 is thou shalt not spend money you have set aside for a closing. And that could be what Jennifer said, paying yourself. If this is the number 1 goal for you in the next 5 years, and you pay yourself consistently, you're going to see the compounding effect of that money rise and grow. So don't be tempted to use that, home money or emergency money, whatever it is that you're setting aside for security. Don't be tempted to spend that. Number 5, thou shalt not omit debts or liabilities from your loan application. So if you have some type of a collection account that you just kind of threw away in the garbage and just forgot mentally that you had it, you have to put everything down on your loan application at once, and Candace will talk about that a little bit more, because whatever you threw away in the garbage will come back to haunt you, unfortunately. And that also goes for child support liens. If you have any child support liens that are outstanding against you and you never had it released, those are things that you need to think about releasing before you start looking at buying a home. Number 6 is thou shalt not finance or buy furniture on credit. It seems like everywhere we turn right now, especially because the prices are rising, everybody wants to give you money. Everybody wants to lend you some money at 25, 30% interest. Please do not fall for it. It's the buy nothing. I will tell you, I love buy nothing. I go on, and if you guys don't know, it's a Facebook app, it's a Facebook page. So if you don't have Facebook, sign up. It's awesome. It's buy nothing, and it's for your local market. And I have bought so many last minute things that I needed that I didn't have the time to. I've actually not bought. You don't buy it, but you can barter with people, and they put it online, and it's kind of like the first come first serve. It's a little annoying, but it's like a competition. But there's so many ways you can borrow money, garage sales, if you need furniture in the time being, because that beautiful new couch is going to get stained in the next year, and you're still gonna owe money on, unfortunately. Number 7 is thou shalt not originate any inquiries on your credit. And again, this goes hand in hand with going out there and financing a car or financing furniture. Credit Karma is what Jennifer mentioned, and that's a free credit inquiry website. How many of you know about Credit Karma? Okay, great. So it's creditkarma.com, and it's karma with, creditkarma.com, right? Yeah. So you could go on there, you could check your current status and your FICO score. But just remember, when you go on there, because it is free, it's not fully at its capacity. It's not, it might show that your credit scores are a little bit higher, but in actuality, they may not be. And it may not always have every single inquiry or account on there, but it's a good source for you to start gauging in on how to improve your credit and what credit card bills you can start paying down. The number 8 is thou shalt not make large deposits without checking with Candace. Again, yes, here. In selling homes. The same with taking large withdrawals out of any account. You have a few $1,000s in there and you withdraw the money, and if you want to buy a home within that 3-4 month period, the bank will ask you what happened or where did the money go. It's just you have to be consistently saving and growing your accounts, not your credit card accounts, but your bank account, to qualify and have less inquiries from the underwriter on what's going on with your money. Number 9 is thou shalt not change bank accounts. There are situations that happen, especially right now with the banking situations that are going on. I don't know if you guys have been watching the news. I try to stay away from it as much as possible, but try not to, just like a credit card, try not to close your credit card, as well as try not to close your bank accounts and open up new ones, because you also get a soft inquiry hit with bank accounts as well, and that can affect your credit a little bit. And then number 10 is thou shalt not co-sign a loan for anyone. Now, if you're married in the state of California, your debt is, his debt is your debt, and your debt is his debt or her debt, your significant others. But if your boyfriend or girlfriend asks you to please co-sign a loan for me, or please, let's help me finance this, bedroom set, please, 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 I cannot tell you enough, even your children. Okay, I am a mom of 3 adult boys, and there are times when I have to say, I'm so sorry, can't do it for you guys, because as much as I love them, they need to learn to start establishing it on their own. But also, if for some reason you co-sign for somebody and they just don't pay, you're liable, and it's going to affect your credit. One of the ways that I've found that I started to kind of focus in on budgeting a little bit better is there's a program called QuickBooks. There are many programs out there, many apps out there that you can download. Being April 1st, as we mentioned, it's important to kind of, again, mindset is everything. Get your mind and mentally prepared for starting, today to budget, write down everything. So there are many apps out there that are free, but I found QuickBooks for me is very dummy proof. And I think they may have like a 30 or 60-day trial for free, but it's $5 a month also if it's something that you're thinking about. But that's a good app to maybe get on and start budgeting, writing everything in your app. If you're, sometimes when I'm talking and my son, I tell him to write this down, he'll be on his phone texting, and I'm like, why are you texting? He's like, I'm not taking notes. So the new generation, everything is on their phone. But, from some of us like me, and, I like to write it down, but Intuit really helps me because if I do my notebook at home, it's a quick way to enter an inquiry. And then again, for those who are actually currently tenants, there are some tenant rights for you if you're going through some kind of an issue with your landlord, or you're getting a notice for eviction that they're selling their home. I'm also available to help you with any questions in that manner at all. So feel free to reach out. And then I like we mentioned, Credit Karma is a great way to keep on top of your credit report, the inquiries against you, any collections that may come up. And then Rakuten is also another way to, again, lifestyle change, start clipping coupons, look for savings. I have my Capital One credit card. It's so cool. They have an extension that allows me to, I download it and the computer knows when my Capital One card will give me points for something. So it's something to look into on both Google extensions on your laptop. And then I also know my Southwest Airlines, if I shop at Macy's, right? You're just taking a little bit more time, being conscious about your money, and money it can be a love-hate relationship. Okay, I'm up here today as a real estate expert, but we all have our stories, and 2 decades ago, I had to be, nobody knows this, I'm gonna share. I was on food stamps for a very short period. And that was when the market crashed in 2006 and 2007. And it was something I had to do to survive at that moment in time. But I will tell you, it brought me to a place where enough was enough. I was tired of someone else dictating my life, someone else telling me what I could afford, someone else someone else telling me when I should pay them and when I can't pay them. And you get to that point. So when you reach that point of I'm done, and you need the advice and the mentorship, we are all here to help each and every one of you get to that next level. So, just, be proud that you are here today. Congratulations for coming. It's a huge step towards financial health is what I call it. And, yeah, thank you so much for listening.
You know, one of the things I love that is I think everyone can relate. People have that time sometimes, and you do have to kind of get back on that. And look at you now, because now everything's going well again. Real estate in the last few years has been really good. Obviously, right now our interest rates are up, and we want to hear about that. What do we need to do? Surely give us a great idea. Saving money, making sure our credit score is high enough to go ahead and purchase a home, or maybe even get to an apartment. They do look at that. But these interest rates, I mean, is it possible given this, or what's?
Good morning, everybody. I'm and I'm a loan officer at Citizen Mortgage. Interest rates are interest rates. That's what I'm going to say. They are constantly moving. If you have seen interest rates at any time over the last 50 years, 20 years, 10 years, they move up and down. So I'm actually not going to focus too much on interest rates in the market. I want to focus more on how you purchase a home regardless of the interest rates and the money. We're not going to get too hung up on that. So I live here in Santa Cruz Valley. I was born and raised here. I actually own my home with my husband and my two twin daughters. They are 7 now. So I was a first-time buyer once. Before I did loans, I was a first-time buyer. So before I knew anything about the process or what it entailed or what you needed, I was a deer in the headlights going, how do I buy my very first home? So I have been in the first-time buyer shoes. I always love to tell my grandma's story about the first-time buyer shoes because her experience is a lot different than it is now. She was purchasing in 1980. She was a single mom of 2 kids. She was living in a double-wide trailer, and she wanted to own it, recently divorced, and wanted to stand on her own 2 feet. And she didn't know where to start. So a neighbor, a good friend of hers, said, put on some lipstick and your best skirt, we're going down to the bank. So my grandma, Jean, walks in with her stilettos into the bank and sits down with the male loan officer and puts on her best smile and says, how do I buy my trailer? And he helped her that day. And it was known then as a leg loan. So if she didn't pay back what she owed on now her mortgage on her trailer, the loan officer was going to come collect on his leg loan. So my grandma, very different experience as well for being a first-time buyer. So things have changed a lot since then. There is a process now. You can't wear your best skirt down in the bank and get a loan anymore. It requires a little bit more than that. So I'm going to go for a little bit about what it entails to buy your home for the very first time. It's a very comprehensive process. I love to help. So you need the right information, you need the right team. We really would be a team if we were working together because every situation is different. Every credit score is different, every income is different, every debt is different, every house is different, every story is different. And those are the stories that help us find the right loan that fits the first time buyer. So where am I? Okay, good. I'm up. With my 7 tips for a first time home buyer. We're going to go over them. So the first one, we talked a lot about your credit. We can pull credit at Trusted Mortgage where I work. It's made up of 3 credit scores: TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So I'll give you a credit score. That's what makes up your FICO, your FICO scores. They're usually a little different than your Credit Karma scores, just because these are the ones that are very comprehensive. They look at everything, from your very first credit card to your very last credit card, and everything in between. So we like to take a look at credit to get an idea of what lender we're going to pair you with, what your program is going to put you in based on your credit score.
The next thing we can do is we can look at improving that score. We can look at maybe paying off some debt or looking at a transaction that might be fraud. I actually just worked with a client on a VA cash out refinance loan. He had 2 solar loans on his credit score. He only had 1 set of solar. So at some point, someone had fraudulently opened up a second Mosaic solar loan on his account for an additional $10,000. So his credit was taking a hit for having 2 loan for solars on it. We were able to remedy that situation, get it off his credit, and move forward with his loan. So we definitely want to get that credit score and take a look at what we can do to improve that credit score. Third is a big step, is get pre-approved. This is when you call me. My cards and books and all the things are in your bags. We're at 661-295-0555. I'm not working tonight, but situation is different. So I can read off to you minimum credit scores. I can read off to you programs. I can read off to you things like that. But that won't be helpful until we start looking at your situation, at what it means for you to buy that house and where you're at in your life. So what we usually do is we take a home application over the phone or in person. I ask you questions about your current employment, your current housing situation, your desired home price, your desired monthly payment, your down payment availability, your current debts, your car payments, your student loans, your credit card balances, the first blood of your firstborn child. It's a lot to go over on a credit card application. So we go over just everything. It's very personal, we know each other, so if it's not me, someone you trust, that will help you go over this situation, because it is a lot. It's a big process to do it all together. So, after our conversation, I usually send a link for documents that you can upload, things like your W-2s, your tax returns, credit card debts, bank statements. So when I do say it's a little bit of everything, it's a little bit of everything. And then next what we can do, once I have an application and some documents we can take a look at, we can see what kind of program we qualify, whether it's FHA or down payment assistance. Right now, they just rolled out a new, it's called the California Dream for All program, which I know that's a big thing in the US is to own your own home. California Dream, the American Dream, owning your own home. The California Dream for All program is a 20% down payment assistance program. It's a second loan against the first loan on the house. It's a fair appreciation loan. And I know all of that sounds like too much, and it is. So you need someone that you trust to go over those kinds of things with you. There are some stipulations to the loan. There's income requirements, there's credit requirements. Again, I can tell you all those things, or we can talk about it exactly for you. The other option would be an FHA program, first time home buyer program. That's 3.5% down on the house. You don't have to have that 20% down to 5%. It will include mortgage insurance, but with good credit, mortgage insurance can be really low. It can be about $30 a month, which isn't outrageous. The difference between putting 20% down and putting 3.5% down and having mortgage insurance, we can go over all those options. We do what we call a chart, and I line them all up next to each other, and we can see which one fits your situation best. What else? There is the CalHAPA program, which offers 3.5% purchase for down payment assistance and 2% in closing cost assistance. So that one's really great too. So 4 and 5, finding your program and knowing your down payment options. So you don't have to have $100,000 saved to buy a house. You don't need that much for a down payment right now. There are options for a down payment assistance. So those are amazing. Number 6, I call this one the easy one. You need a experienced real estate agent. So and again, it's really about who you choose. So if it's not me, if it's not Shirley, find someone who you can have these kind of conversations about your income and your debt, credit scores, what kind of house you want to buy, and where you're at. I recently spoke with a couple about doing a cash out refinance for them. They wanted to pay off about $35,000 of credit card debt. They wanted to consolidate a first loan and a second loan on their house. And they were hoping to take out about $10,000 to go on a 20-year wedding anniversary trip and to celebrate that the spouse, the husband in the situation was cancer-free. So when I say I get to know you in this process, I get to know you in this process. So I know that they wanted to pay off their debt, I know they wanted to consolidate, and I know they were celebrating 20 years, and I know he's cancer-free, and I know they wanted to celebrate. So I connect, I really want to help in whatever situation it might be that they want to do that. And I know she does too. So, and number 7, budget. I think we've all said budget today, right? Budget for your homeowner's costs. We can go over all the homeowner costs, which include the property tax, the hazard insurance, and the closing costs on your loan. Most likely the property tax and hazard insurance will be rolled into your monthly payment. It's called impounded, so that you're not paying your property tax bill all at once, and you're not paying your home insurance bill all at once. It gets divided out over the life of the loan and over the year of the loan, so that you don't have to pay it all in one big lump sum. Closing costs for a home include things like the lender underwriting fee, the appraisal fee, the credit report fee, the escrow fees, notary costs, title insurance, county recording. There are quite a few fees that are in this. They are anywhere between $3,000 to $8,000, which sounds like a lot, but again, they get financed into the loan amount. So again, not out of pocket. You don't come in with that money. It gets financed into your loan and you pay it over the course of the loan. The last thing I wanted to say here was, I don't cost you anything. So that's always nice to know, right? People always ask me, like, are you charging me $1 a minute as I go over my loan? I am not. I do not get paid by you. Money does not come out of the borrower's pocket so that I help you with your loan. I get paid by the lender. So when the loan closes, they pay. So there's not an extra $5,000 that you pay to the commissioner or anything like that to help with the loan. So if you do have questions right now about buying a house, please call me. Please go over. Tell me you want to go to Hawaii to celebrate your 20-year anniversary. You want to celebrate your cancer-free, or you want to buy your first house, first condo. Those are things that we can do together, and it's at no cost to you to do so. And I am happy to help. I love getting to know everybody. I love finding out what program is best for them. So it is possible to buy it. There are programs that can help. There are ways to do it. The thing about it, the most that I can stress, is finding someone you trust to do it with. The right team, the right information, and the right plan. And if right now doesn't mean right now, like today, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, but if we have a plan in place and we know how to move forward, then we can do that. Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks, Gavin. It really was. So everyone's been writing notes on your piece of paper. There's been so many tips, but also writing questions. Because I think what we're going to do now is we're going to collect those questions so we can kind of put them together. Then take a quick break for about, Phyllis, what, 10 to 15 minutes?
For this, do a couple of things before we share. But you want that, you
Want the, my
probably. I can talk about, but
let's see what, Phyllis, we have until about what time? Because I don't have the one. Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, Jennifer, the first one's going to be for you, okay? Of course. Where can we find an institution that will guarantee an interest rate of 6% over 20 years?
It's actually not an institution, it would be, an investment vehicle. So, when I mentioned 6%, that, I actually did a low number on that. There are a lot of mutual funds that you can find, or exchange traded funds, that I can certainly help you out with, where it's going to be over time that it's going to go up, it's going to go down, and that's not something that you should worry about. Matter of fact, when things go down and you're putting money into it, it's actually better. It's like going to the store and getting a sale on a new pair of pants. You want to buy it cheaper. Nobody goes into the store and says, "Hey, I love these $100 pair of jeans, but I really want to pay $150. Can you take $150 from me?" No. But the same thing with the market. The market's going to go up and down. So when it is down, that is a great time if you're continuously putting money in that account. Over time, when it does go back up, you're going to actually make more money that way. That's the same general rule as you have in 401k. That's why they work so well, because you're putting money in each paycheck. And let's talk about that really quickly. If you do have an option to have a 401k, please, please, please use it, especially if your employer is giving you a certain amount of money within that 401k. Sometimes they'll match 50%, 50% of the first 3%, sometimes it's 100%, but that's the money, that's actually part of your benefit plan, part of your salary. So you want to make sure that you're investing that money into your 401k, where again, they don't have these different mutual funds. And I look at people's 401ks and I help make sure that they're in the right investments for that as well, for their needs. And I can help you out with that, but basically, an easy one would be Vanguard. Totally, if you do VTI, it's that's a very simple one that you can go into, and that has averaged over 30-year period over 10% a year. Again, ups and downs. But again, everybody's different, everybody's needs is different. So that just shows you what the market can do. And you know, but it does take its negatives in that time frame. Again, good when you're putting money in, bad when you're retired and need to pull your money out. That's when you become more conservative. Again, I just want to say something really quickly because you know, people are funny with their money. I mentioned that earlier. You tell your best friend or your neighbor or somebody more about your sex life than you will about so, I met this nice guy, you know, made out, or whatever. It's, oh, what's the salary? Oh, expensive. So, it's how we live our lives in different truths, if you will. Your money, now I'm not going to stand up on a crate and milk crate and say, this is what I make. But be real with yourself, be real with your money. And it's important. And if you start to plug away into investments, whether it's making 6, 7, 8, 9, for some years, if it's negative 30 one year, it could happen. That is okay. That means when you're putting that money in, you're buying it at a real discount.
Thanks, Jennifer. So, okay, this one said, I just found water damage on my wood floor around my back door. It's not from a pipe. Is it covered? That would be you, Jessica.
So just to clarify, they said they found water damage and it wasn't from a pipe and it was in their around the back door. So I would say the first step is definitely get someone out to inspect it again before you make the claim. We're going to want to find out where the source came from because that is what's going to determine if it's covered or not. So even if you do make a claim and the adjuster comes out, because the adjuster will always come out once you make a claim. Their job is to kind of confirm where the source came from and if it is or is not covered. So I would start with getting it inspected, figure out an estimate of what it will cost and see what caused this, and then call your agent, ask them, hey, this is what happened. Is it covered? Should I make a claim or how should we handle this best?
Jessica, this one is very similar, so I'm guessing the answer is the same. So what if you have a crack in the wall and water leaks in?
So if, yes, so let's say there's a crack in the wall, right? Again, source, did the water come from outside? Was it from the rain? If so, again, that would be flood policy. So that's not covered under your standard homeowners insurance if the source came from outside. If, let's say, a pipe burst in your home and there was a crack in the wall and it came through that crack and damaged your flooring, that would be covered. Insurance does not pay to repair the actual pipe that burst. It repairs the damage it did. So that's definitely an important note to make. But again, it just depends on the source. So finding that out will definitely help to know, should you make a claim and will be covered or not.
Hey, Candace, this one for you. Okay, are there particular programs for single moms who may have co-owned homes previously with their ex-spouse, but are interested now in purchasing their first home on their own?
So, yes and no. I mean, I would take that answer. I work with another loan officer who her and I chat a lot, and she always says yes and no. So yes and no, there are programs that can help a single person, whether it be a mother or a father, purchase a home. The first-time home buyer programs, a first-time home buyer is defined as a person who has not been on a deed of a property in the last 3 years. So if you were married and you and your husband owned a home, or you and your spouse owned a home, and you've divorced, and now you've been renting for 5 years, you now qualify as a first-time home buyer again. It's a 3-year change there. There are, whether you're in a committed, a marital status or you're single, there are programs that fit everybody. There are some nuances to all of them though. So some will include, if both people are on the loan, both people are on the deed. If one person also is on the loan, both people can be on deed. And those are different based on the type of program that fits that person. Deed means you own the property. Loan means you're a part of the money owed on the property. So if you're on the loan and on the deed, you now have the liability of the loan and also the asset of the home. If you're on the deed only, you're on the asset, but you're not owed on the liability of the loan. Does that kind of make sense? I always want to make sure I'm explaining things correctly. So there aren't programs specifically for single mothers, but there are programs for single people or married people, and there are ways to go about those programs.
Okay, that's awesome, thank you. Shirley, is it cheaper to rent or to buy?
Okay, great question. You have to look at the overall picture. Rents right now are extremely high due to the fact that we have very low inventory available for sale. So for you, if you're currently renting or looking for a new space and or you're getting a rent increase with your landlord, what I would say is there's no yes and no to that, because it really depends on your budget. First of all, I know people who pay $4,500 a month for a rental, and that just blows my mind. Like, oh my gosh, because they feel that they need a lot of money to put down payment on the new home, and as Candace explained, that's not the case. So it just depends if you're renting a room. I would say if that's what you could afford right now and it's feasible, because if you think about it, when you go into a new space to rent, a new home to rent, you're going to need minimum first month, maybe last month, plus a security deposit. And sometimes, depending on the rent amount, that can add up to $1,000 or more. Right. But if you sit with us and tell us, my rent is going to be $25,000 to $3,000 a month, you take that as a core and you add that up for class security, that is going to be about $10,000 to $12,000. However, with FHA, 3.5% down, or even the New Dream loan, we can sit you down and we can calculate. Of course, affordability is one of the bases that we need to go with. And we can say, this is what we can do a comparison, rent versus own, and you would be amazed to see if you can afford anything that's over $2,500 to $3,000 plus a month to rent. We more than likely would be able to find something, and if it's a condo, too bad. It's a stepping stone. Buying a home should be considered, a stepping stone. If you start with a condo, you can hang on to it 2 to 5 years. You can keep it, and as you're being budget-wise and financially healthy, you can start growing, slowly, and as you build more income, more assets, you can keep the budget, you can keep the townhome or condo, and you can step up and buy another home, you can build your equity. So there's so many variables that go into, buying versus renting, but just to rent alone right now, going into a new space, you're gonna need first, possibly last, if you have a dog, $100 deposit for the dog. You know, if you, honestly, if you want a parking space, another $500. My son is moved out on his own against my wishes. So I'm like, stay here, save money, don't be stupid. I want them to grow in beans and all on their own. And you know what? It's crazy. He has a dog, a minimum $500 dog deposit, plus, you know, $2,200 a month for rent from one bedroom, plus a $50 a month rent for the dog, plus $100 a month for the car space. Plus, it's like, oh my gosh. Renters, you have to have renters insurance, $20 to $25 a month, you know, sometimes $50, but you, all that adds up. So I would say if any of you are, you know, considering making a new, if you're in a great locked-in tenancy right now, a lease agreement, stay. But if you're forced to go out and look for more housing because the rents are so high, there's not enough homes in LA County to accommodate people living here. So it would be, the first step would be just call us and we will sit down and give you an analysis of the, you know, one versus the other.
Perfect, thank you. Jessica, that one for you. If your children are on your car insurance and they are in an accident, and say that it wasn't enough coverage on it, in other words, can they come after your home?
So if they're on your policy, correct?
They're on your
If they
home.
were in an accident, there wasn't enough coverage. Yes, so there's the policy holder, right? And so whoever kind of is within that policy, unfortunately, it can affect you. That's why a lot of people sometimes do kind of want their kids to have their own sort of policy and get different quotes, but, yes, that definitely can affect you. If they are in an accident and someone comes after you, but yes.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, what are some credit cards that have great benefits attached to them?
Okay, so first off, the benefits that I was talking about, not all benefits are equal. So, for example, the American Express Hilton card gives you 135, 150,000 points if you spend a certain amount of money in 3 months. But it may equate to a much smaller benefit of like one night hotel room or a couple of nights hotel room. So not everything's equal. Sometimes you say like, you could get a $25,000, you could get a domestic round trip flight, or you can get a box of milk. So you want to look at that and you want to make sure that the benefit's correct for you and what you need it for. Do you want cash back? Do you want to have it where you can take your family on vacation, night stay? Chase happens to have some really good products out there. The Chase cashback card, the Sapphire card that can give you like $60,000 if you hit their spend. Just don't go into a card that doesn't give you any. And you know, if you can, but also watch the annual fees. And it's for some people, credit cards can be high. In the sense, it can be in the sense of where they actually take advantage of all these benefits. So I like to say they'll actually turn from the card. They'll get the benefit, and then they'll pay off the card as they should each month. And then when they're done with that, they'll utilize the benefit and not use that card again. And then they'll go and open up another card. You go, well, isn't that going to ruin my credit? Well, no. You don't want to open a card every day, of course. But if you actually have more credit cards out there that say, this one says you have 5,000 that you can spend, let's say you have 10 cards that say you have 5,000 that you spend, and you don't spend on anything on them. Now you have $50,000 worth of credit. So when you spend on one of those cards, the percentage that you're spending out of all of your credit is a lot lower. So when Shirley talks about 28% spend, it's actually going to help you out to have more cards because of that. Doesn't mean you should use them. It just means that having that credit is something that when they look at it, they say, you have this availability and you're not using it. That means you're a good bet. So, but I would look at Chase, is a really great place to start for some of those cards.
So now this is gonna be an interesting question. It's gonna come down to canvas on this one, but it's almost the second half of what Jennifer was talking about. So this may be a debate going back and forth. I'm not quite sure where it's going. This one says, why not cancel your credit card? Because if it's open, it could show potential debt. So does it affect you if too much is open and you're going to look for financing for a home?
So when you're financing for a home, it doesn't matter how many cards you have open, it matters how many cards are delinquent. We call them the red asterisks, because that's actually what they are on your credit report. It comes up with a little red star next to it, and it means it's either a collection, a repossession, a late payment, a card that was open and never paid, things of that nature. So it actually, for your credit, for purchasing a home, I've seen credit reports that are 45 pages long, and they've got all kinds of things on them, but they're all to date. None of the payments were late, none of them were repossessed or collections or ignored and forgotten. And I've seen credit reports that are 2 pages long, and someone's never had a credit card before, and their credit is very new. That's actually, the credit score is usually a little lower because there is no credit to see. So having multiple credit cards is not a problem. It's which ones are delinquent and which ones are current. You want to stay current. You want no little like red asterisks next to anything on your credit report.
So Candace, this one's going to be that on that one then. How many credit cards do I need to establish credit? How many do I actually have to? Is 1 enough? Is 3 enough? What?
There's not an exact formula to how many. Again, it's about having non-delinquent credit. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you only have 1 credit card for all of your life and you use that credit card and you paid it off up and down and never closed it. That's great credit. It's a good way to establish credit. If you have 10 credit cards and 5 are delinquent, that's when we get a little more difficult with our credit scores. If you have 2 credit cards and they're all current, or 1 credit card and they're all current, that's how you keep your credit healthy. So you do at least want 1 credit card that you keep open and you use and you pay off.
Okay, I'm a nerd. Can I take it back
Go for it.
real quick? So I'm a super nerd. My wife will tell you that I'm driving crazy. I mean, I'm kind of done. These little stamps here, these little stickers here, and it will tell me which credit card to use for what item. So this will say 3 times, I'll get 3 times points for shopping or dining. 1 times point for anything else. So if anything else, I don't want to use this card. I want to then go in and say, okay, let's look over here. This one, I'm very funny this way, sorry guys. This one has 2 times everything, okay? And 5 times for hotels and rental cars. So what I've done here is I've said to myself, okay, which card should I use that I'm going to maximize my spend on? Because I want to have this report, because I want to go away and just pay for it, okay? So I got this for $9, $10 on Amazon, these stickers that I put on my phone. Again, it's not about how many cards you have. Cards are good. It's not paying them that's bad. Okay, getting into a situation where you go, oh, I have this credit card, someone's gonna throw this down. And then you go, oh my God, what did I do? You know, I shouldn't have spent that. I didn't mean to spend that. So you want to make sure that you're still working within your budget. But again, like I said, you can buy yourself gift cards with your credit card to pay for your groceries, to pay for your gas. And that way you can get the points, so that way you can benefit from it. But make sure that it's in your budget.
Sure.
One thing I do want to just put back on Candace, I want everyone to be aware that zero credit is also, like, no credit is also worse than bad credit. Because the lender needs to see a history of commitment basically from you. So what I did is, if there are any of you out here that don't have any credit cards yet or have young children, almost 18, what I did for my boys is, when they turned 18, I went to my local bank. And, of course, with money that they saved from birthdays or whatnot, I had told them previously, when you turn 18, we're gonna open up a credit card for you because you want to help establish credit. And what I did is I took them to the local bank. I had them put their own money, because you have to have your own blood, sweat, and tears in to be accountable. And I had them open up what's called a pre-select card. And so it's like a debit card, but it actually helps with your credit. I don't think things have changed that much in these years, but,
No, you can still, you can.
okay,
still-
good.
I think it's over 18.
Yes, so when my oldest turned 18, I did this with him, and now I have my last child, he's gonna be 18 in a few months. He's actually leaps and bounds ahead of his brothers. But, it is something to consider for your children, or if you don't have credit for yourself. It's very important to establish credit. So cutting up credit cards is different. If you don't want to use the credit card, don't close the account, just cut it up and put it to the side. Like, that way you have no use for it, but if you do close your account, it is going to be a detriment to your scores over time.
Right, and also authorized users, a lot of times, family members like to, husband and wife, oh, we get one credit card and we'll be an authorized user on it. You're better off having your own separate credit card and not being an authorized user on somebody else's card.
And that kind of led to this question, which is, can a minor piggyback off your credit?
That's a good question. They have student cards up there. We have used authorized, user for our child and given them a credit card, and it has built up his credit by doing that. And that's definitely a good thing to do. It's different than if you're two adults, doing it. It's good for your child to do that. But also, there's a lot of student cards out there that you can get. And what's really nice is you can add on the alerts, which is so important. So, you know exactly where the spending is going.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we have one more for Jessica. Yes, how does insurance cover someone in a hit and run accident?
Hit and run, yes, so that is where your uninsured or underinsured, motorists will come into play. Hit and run, if you have that uninsured or underinsured, that's gonna help take care of if someone does do, the hit and run for you. So you just wanna make sure you kind of go over all of that and have the coverages that are going to help you, in the event of that. And then, also for that question too, with having your kids on it, there is a subrogation department too that is going to help you kind of walk through those claims, and that's why it's also important to discuss the amounts with your agent and why minimums might not be enough. So especially if you have multiple people on your policy, you'll probably not want to have the 15, 35 of state minimum, because in the event that something does happen, you just have to maybe want to be like one more tier up, so that you just have a little more peace of mind if you have multiple drivers on your policy.
Thank you so much. Now, I know we didn't answer all the questions, so what we'll do is we're gonna, the ones that we were not able to answer, we're gonna go ahead and I'm going to give them to Zonta, and we'll go ahead and send them out to everyone, with some answers. So, let's just go to some final comments, because we asked some questions at the very beginning of this workshop, and I just want to get maybe a final comment or two from our panelists. So, Jennifer, you have a sentence or two on how I can be the boss of my money?
Yes. being the boss of your money is being cognizant of your money and your spend. That's the thing. We all have this stress, and then we're always thinking about, oh my God, how am I gonna pay this? What's, all this expense. And it's always floating in our head. And instead of letting it float here, put it down on paper. Create that budget for yourself, and then make a plan of action. See how much you can spend less. Hopefully, you can cut that by 20% of spending, and that way you can take that 20% and you can put that into a savings account and or an investment account, or even a fun account. I don't care. It could be a fun account that you want that money for. So, but in order to be the boss, you have to know what's going on. If you were the boss of several employees, you want to know if they're doing their job, if they're working, if everybody's happy with what they're doing. You're going to need to pay those bills, maybe do those invoices. Well, why wouldn't you do that for yourself? Make sure that everything is in line for you, because this is your life. You get one chance at it, and be the boss of it by planning.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so everything is costing more. How do I survive? Shirley, you want to just get one or two? Yes. Last, closing comments?
Yes, one thing you have to do is, again, budget is very important. That's like the primary word that we've all used in our core discussions. Just stick within your budget. And, I know people that still go to Starbucks when the prices are going, high, and they don't want to cut them down. Well, you have to be aware. You have to be aware of where your money is going in order for you to control how you're going to keep it. Again, you're important, just as important as your bills. So you have to have that fun account. You're entitled, even under stress and pressure and tough times, you can have a little fun, but you have to be wise. Don't let your current financial hardship define your future. That is something that you have to be very graceful with. Provide grace to yourself and be aware of, where is my money going first and foremost. Click coupons, Rakuten.com, install those apps onto your phone. I know 99 Cent Store has an app. If you spend $20, you get $5 off. Bonds, I open up my app every time I go in there. You spend $50, you get $5 off. That's five times 2 is 10, and then another 5. By the end of the month, if you're really, really aware of where you're putting your money, you'll be surprised at how much you're actually in control of it.
Perfect. Jennifer, how do I keep up with inflation? Just a comment or two.
I can do that. So inflation, I just want to know that the average person is spending over $400 a month more just on their basics because of inflation, and that just is what it is. So when I mentioned to you about writing that budget down and figuring out everything, every penny that you spent, and I'm serious about every penny. Another trick that I've done is after I've done that, I decide to say, okay, I'm going to spend 10 or 20% less than that. And then I divide it up by 30. Now I minus out the mortgage, I minus out the car payment, but like the actual going out to the grocery shop, getting a coffee, whatever it is. And what I do is I say, okay, this is the amount of money I'm allowed to spend per day. And then every time I spend it, whether it's 25 cents or $5 or $30, whatever it is, I actually put it in there. And then at the end of the day, I say, did I make my budget? Did I make it in there? And I go, yes, I did. I saved $5, and guess what? $5 gets to go on tomorrow if I wanted to. And because I'm keeping myself in that budget. And it's a little game that I play with myself. But that's how, when we're dealing with inflation, if I know how much money I can spend, if I can cut it down because I'm spending over $400 a month more on essentials, we have to do it. It's just a situation. We didn't have this poor. We're in this situation, hopefully by the second half of this year, it'll get a little bit better, but we're really not gonna see it much, I think 2025 is probably, an area that we're gonna see inflation much safer for us.
So, thank you. So I know we've really covered this one already, but I would want to buy a home. Is it possible? Shirley or Candace, you have?
Yes. Yes, it is possible right now. Please start a conversation with someone that you trust about buying a home, whether it's a loan officer or a mortgage broker or real estate agent. They're coming up with new programs every day. The California Dream for All program I spoke about came out on Tuesday, the 27th. This was not a program that we've ever offered in the last 20 years. So there are options out there. There are ways to buy a house right now. And if not right now, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it may be, there's a plan in place there that we can put together on work and someone you trust.
And I want to.
Yes.
Because I like See, again, owning a house, you get that equity is gonna go over time, that may mean that you can put your kids through college, that may mean that, oh, I wanna bring somebody in to rent a room in my house, and I'm gonna make income from that, so my mortgage is less. So there are things that you can do that are gonna help you grow your equity in your life.
Can I ask that one a little bit about renting rooms? Sure, go ahead. You rent a room, you have to find that on your taxes. This last one, life is hit, how do I get back on the path? Really quickly, Jessica?
Sure, yes. I think this one is, life hits us all in different ways, right? It's not just one thing that can happen to us. And I think, like Shirley said earlier in the presentation today, it's about your mentality, it's about perspective and how you're kind of approaching things. And we can't plan for those things to happen. I mean, personally, myself, the beginning of this year was rough. I mean, I got engaged and then the very next morning, my fiance's mother passed away. And so we kind of had to go through that and, and all of that, while kind of still trying to be excited and happy and, it was a lot. So life just hits us all differently and there's no way to really plan on it, but I think leaning on the people around you and using your resources and digging into those that do love you and are there for you and that want to see you do well, want to see you thrive, that I think is what kind of gets you through. And as far as not getting or just getting back on track, I think just to bring it back to insurance, why not, right? Not get too far behind, and to help, not the financial burden not be 100% on. So,
So say one thing about the cutting. Love to talk. One thing I'm very guilty of that I started doing again in this tough time is, first of all, don't go to the grocery store hungry. Make a list. Do not go up and down those aisles.
So we hope all of you got some great tips, some information that you can continue to use through the years, not just right now, but continue to use through the years. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to leave it with this quote that all of you have on that one piece of paper. And what it says, because I think it's really good to remember, is it is what it is. And by the way, that is not positive and it is not negative. It is what it is. That's neutrality. But it will become what you make it. So thank you all. Appreciate you being here.